should just get it on. Oh wait, I forgot they were brothers. What's up, book nerds? I'm Lucky's Universe, and today I'm doing my month in books, aka what I read in the month of August, and not gonna lie, had a bit of a disappointing month. This month I read a total of 4 books, and we are gonna get right into it. The first book I read was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Cinder is the first book in a very popular YA series called The Lunar Chronicles. Each book is loosely based on / inspired by a different fairy tale, and Cinder is obviously inspired by Cinderella. Cinder is set in a futuristic dystopian world in a city called New Beijing, and the population is made up of both humans and androids. There is also a really bad plague going around, and it kills people. Our main character, Cinder, is a cyborg. She was in a mysterious accident as a child, and the only way to save her life was to give her android parts, so she has like a computer brain, a robot arm, and a robot leg. She works as a mechanic, and then she lives with her stepmother, who hates her because in this world, cyborgs are treated as like second-class citizens, not completely human. She also has 2 sisters or stepsisters, one of which hates her, the other is kind of nice, I guess. And the short rundown of it is that Cinder's life starts to get real complicated once she meets this handsome, charming Prince Kai and finds herself in the middle of this intergalactic struggle thing. So the pros of this book was, I liked the writing. It was good for a YA novel. Like, it wasn't blowing me away, but it wasn't bad. I found it really easy to read. I read this in like half a day. I thought Cinder was an interesting character. I liked that she was smart. Like, she was shown as being smart without the author having to constantly tell the readers that she was smart. In writing, we always say show, don't tell. A lot of the times you find authors, when they're trying to describe characters, they are just constantly hammering home the fact that, you know, she did this because she was really intelligent, or she did this because she knew she was smarter than everyone else. But like, we don't need to be told that a character is smart. You just have to show us through their actions, through what they're doing, you know? So I thought that was good. And this next bit, I don't know if it's a pro or a con. I found it very predictable. And I mean, that's something that you're always going to get with fairy tale retellings, because you're taking the material from a primary source that everyone knows about. And sometimes, I think in terms of this book, I liked that it was predictable because it made it really easy to read. Like, I didn't have to think too hard because I knew what was going to happen. In saying that, I guess maybe because I have just been reading so many fairy tale retellings that the predictability kind of got old and it started to be boring. Moving more into the cons of the book, Cinder, although I really liked Cinder, she was the only character that I liked. I found the rest of the characters really flat, really boring. There was just nothing, like, I didn't feel like I was emotionally invested in any of them. Sometimes Cinder could be a bit too much of the, you know, I'm so kind, I'm so caring, therefore everyone around me immediately looks mean. And I get that that's kind of how Cinderella was like, so I can kind of forgive that. And I guess the overall feeling of this book was, I liked Cinder, the story was fun, but at this point I am so over fairy tale retellings, so I gave this book 3 stars. The next book I read was Scarlet, also by Marissa Meyer. Aside from having the occasional chapter told from Cinder's perspective, Scarlet is mainly about a character named Scarlet. She's a delivery girl who lives in France, and her grandmother has gone missing. She comes across Wolf, who is a man who she believes has the answers to her grandmother's disappearance, and they embark on a journey together to find her. I have notes about the books that I read written down here, and literally the only pro I have about this book is Wolf be kinda cute though. Yeah, this book was just kind of a letdown for me. I just didn't enjoy it. Maybe because I just came off reading Cinder, which was like a slightly above average book, and then this in comparison is just flat. Because I really only liked the first book because of Cinder, and Cinder is barely in this book. I also think that unfortunately Scarlet just isn't an interesting enough character to carry her own novel. Like, she is just a delivery girl from France with a missing grandparent, whereas Cinder is like this cyborg girl with superpowers who's also a long lost princess. When you compare the two, Scarlet just doesn't have any ground to stand on. I found Scarlet and Wolf's insta-love romance just was really boring. There was no chemistry. They fell in love in 24 hours, and I get that this is supposed to be reminiscent of a fairy tale where people do fall in love really fast, but I just wasn't feeling it. Like, this whole book was just one big nah. And again, the predictability got old real fast, and it wasn't that it was predictable in the way that it was based on a fairy tale, so I knew how it was going to go. Like, this bears very little resemblance to Red Riding Hood, but just, yeah, wasn't predictable as a fairy tale. It was just predictable as a YA novel. Like, it was very stereotypical. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. It was like every other YA romance novel I'd ever read as a teenager. Unfortunately, after giving this book 3 stars, I have decided to DNF, do not finish, this series, mainly because I have Winter sitting on my shelf. I borrowed these books from the library, and I just looked over and saw how thick Winter is. Like, it's over 700 pages, and I don't think I can make myself go through 700 pages of In this series' defense, I feel like if I had read this series when I was, I feel like maybe 13 to 15 years old, I would have simped hard for every single character. I would have been obsessed, but I think this book is just too juvenile for me, and it's young adult. That's understandable, but I'm not going to be reading the rest of the series. Sorry, I'm sorry. Everyone, there's been a lot of people in my TikTok comments about Lunar Chronicles. It's really big in the online book community, but yeah, unfortunately, not going to be continuing. Alright, the next book I read was a historical fiction called The Lady of the Ravens by Joanna Hickson. This follows the story of Joan Vore, who is a lady in waiting to Queen Elizabeth, who was the wife of Henry Tudor, like Henry VII, so the parents of King Henry VIII. Joan has a really strong will and is adamant on avoiding marriage, and because she has a real immense fear of childbirth. However, she is forced to marry, and then she has some children, she becomes happy, and that's the whole story. The pros of this book was, I liked the first part of it, like the first half, before she got married. I thought Joan was cool. I was interested in her story. Like, I wanted to know how it would play out, like a woman in that time period who didn't want to get married and have children. That would have been so hard and very interesting to explore. But as we move into the cons of this book, once Joan gets married and has children, her character completely changes. Like, she's suddenly happy. It's really weird, the kind of language that was used in this book. Once she had children and she realized that she really loved children and all she wanted to do was become a mother, like she didn't want to go back to work as a lady in waiting, she just wanted to stay home with her kids. She was having these thoughts like, oh, thank God I'm a normal functioning woman. And all of her friends were like, oh, we're so happy that you decided that you like being a mom and you want to have more kids, because like we were really worried. We thought you weren't a normal girl, but like now you've assimilated. She became just like the rest. And while I'm not begrudging women who want to stay home and have kids and be a mom for the rest of their life, like if that is what makes you happy, you do you. That's the whole point of feminism, is that it's not about making women go to work, it's about having the choice about whether you want to be a mom or go to work. You know, equality. It's just that I felt that the conflict in the novel was about her not wanting to have kids and about her rebelling against the social norms of her time. And so once she assimilated, that conflict went away and there was like no point to the story anymore, if that makes sense. I felt as though the story had no climax. You know, in comparison to, I read a lot of historical fiction, and in comparison to other historical fictions that I've read, this didn't feel like a story. It just felt like a retelling of history from a person's perspective. Not to mention the romance was bone dry. I feel like if it had been super steamy or super complex and emotionally captivating, it could have saved the story, but it just wasn't there. And I guess I was just left disappointed. Like, I didn't really understand why I read it. I finished it and was like, I don't understand the point of the story, you know? I gave this book 3 stars. No. And lastly, we have probably my most disappointed read of the month, and that is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the second book coming on from A Curse So Dark and Lonely. People who have seen my review on A Curse So Dark and Lonely will know that I really enjoyed that book. I gave it 4 stars. This, however, I ended up rating 2 stars. I tried to film like a reading vlog of it, but in the end it was just so flat and boring that I felt like I didn't have any good content. So A Heart So Fierce and Broken picks up not that long after the end of The Curse So Dark and Lonely. Ren is freaking out about Amberfall, Gray is off finding himself, and Harper, I don't even know what Harper's doing, she's barely in this book. We are also introduced to a new character named Leah Mara, who is the daughter of the evil queen from the first book. There are rumors circulating that Ren isn't the true heir, that he has a brother or a half-brother, I can't remember, and that heir has magic and Ren wants to find him and destroy him because he's really scared of magic. But we, as the readers, know that Gray is secretly the heir. The pros of this book, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I've got written down, Ren's dumb, but I still simp, so there's that. I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say I fully simp, I'm more like I half simp because I'm holding out for some sort of redemption in the third book. And then there are the cons, and the main con is that Harper isn't in this story. Sure, she's a character, I think there's like one chapter from her perspective, she's mentioned in the book, but like, she has no page time. The reason I enjoyed the first book so much because I really liked Harper as a character. I thought she was super interesting and really funny and dynamic, and also like disability representation. But like, she's just not in here, so I felt like I didn't enjoy the book as much because the one character that I really liked was gone. In comparison, the other characters just don't measure up. I also took issue with Ren. In my review of the first book, I talked about how I got really strong Tamlin vibes from Ren, but then by the end of the book, I was pretty certain of the fact that he wasn't anything like Tamlin. I actually really liked his character. But now in this book, it's impossible to deny the similarity. It's a very similar storyline of charming prince in the first novel turns tyrant in the second novel, with no explanation. It was just kind of weird, it felt unexplained. It's like, why is he the bad guy now? Like, and why does he have to be the bad guy? You know, at first, in the first book, I liked him because he was vanilla, but like, I like vanilla, there's nothing wrong with vanilla, but now he's just rum and raisin, and no one likes rum and raisin. I was really interested at the start of the book with the dynamic between Ren and Gray, like when they met for the first time in this book and they had some conversations, and I thought it was really interesting and I was really excited about exploring their relationship. But then they parted ways and we didn't get any more from them. I wish Ren and Gray's relationship had been developed more. I still think that they should just get it on. Oh wait, I thought they were brothers. They have too much chemistry to be siblings. Gray, for me, was just one big skip. He's just not an interesting enough character to carry his own. The first book was really good because we had this cool sort of relationship between Gray and Ren and Harper, and they worked really well together. But now that they're all separated, they're just not as good. I'm glad there wasn't a love triangle, at least. Gray is just boring to me because I feel like he's too good. It's a very, Tamlin Rhysand thing in Court of Mist and Fury. Rhysand is presented as being like, I am the ultimate good guy, I can do no wrong. And in comparison, Tamlin looks bad. And in A Heart So Fierce and Broken, Gray is like, I want all these things, I am good, I am idealistic, blah, 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 blah. So in comparison, Ren looks bad. And I'm just not here for pure characters, you know? I wish Gray had been a little bit more morally grey. Then we have Leah Mara, who's the new character, the daughter of the evil queen. And she is so annoying. I just think the author was trying too hard to make Leah Mara the next Harper, and Leah Mara just ain't it. She's very stereotypical, very pure innocent. She's the carbon copy, just the female version of Gray, which is maybe why they have a half-assed romance in this novel. Something didn't sit right with me about Leah Mara and Gray's romance. It felt like Gray was subconsciously trying to replace Harper with Leah Mara. I remember around a little bit towards the end, he starts calling Leah Mara my lady, which is what he called Harper, and he hadn't called anyone else that, just only Harper. So I thought that was weird. I don't know, just all in all, this book's super disappointing. I'm gonna read the third book, obviously, but I I just think that maybe, even though the third book hasn't been published yet, this is already suffering from middle book syndrome. So I'm holding out hope for the third book, but in the meantime, 2 stars. And that concludes my month in books, what I read in the month of August. I'm sorry if I was a bit flat today. I've just had a lot going on. I'm really busy, I'm super tired, and just, you know, I really wanted to make some effort to put out some content for you guys, and yeah. I think once I get things sorted out and under control, I'll be able to go back to my normal content where I feel like I'm a little bit more upbeat and making a few more jokes than I am now. But yeah, so hang in there, drink some tea, read some books, do your homework, and thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.